everybody, it's Yo Taylor back here at the Style Table, My Style Mondays, and this is part 3 of my Sustainable Style series. We talked about our closet edit, cleaning out our closet and having fun doing it, and then our second part 2 was about how we sell our clothes and getting some ROI off of those piles that we set up during our closet edit. Now we're talking about donating our clothes to charitable organizations and churches. I tend to give to our church's thrift shop, and I also give to the local Goodwill. On my way to donate more clothing, I like my neighborhood Goodwill. And it's a superstore, it's a big store, and I sometimes talk to the employees that work there at the donation center, and they're always so positive and happy and nice. And there are people out there that will buy your gently used items. They will buy them, and it helps people who cannot, or like some of us, do not want to spend a whole lot of money on different items. I do know that Goodwill is an accredited charity through the Better Business Bureau's Wise Giving Alliance, through give.org, and they are seal holders. So I know that I'm giving to an organization that's doing great things. I am here with my very special guest, H.Art Taylor, JD CPA, President and CEO of give.org. He's a professor at both Columbia University and Indiana University Lilly School of Philanthropy, board member of the Institute of the Future, and host of Heart of Giving podcast, which is on fire. It's one of the best podcasts out there, you guys. So definitely you want to tune in. He actually talks about donating clothes and where clothes end up and where are the best organizations to donate those clothes. And I also have to give him another title. He's my husband.
That's the best title.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Every little bit helps. And I think a lot of times we don't believe that the small gift we makes a difference. But in reality, the people receiving that gift or the recipient of that gift really values the gift a lot more than we think. So even if you give $1 or a small item of clothing, it makes a huge difference to the recipient. And on top of that, when we give something, the people who we give to are more likely to give to someone else.
So what are the criteria or factors that your organization considers when you're evaluating nonprofits and charities that work with clothing donations?
Well, the first thing we try to tell people is go to the website, give.org, to make sure that the charity's been accredited. Our criteria is 20 different standards that focus on things like how well a board operates. It talks about how a charity's finances are managed, whether they're assessing their impact. Are they evaluating the performance of the CEO? How are they dealing with corporate partners? Are they managing their complaints well from individual donors? And things like, people want to know how much money spent on fundraising and overhead, that kind of thing, which can be misleading metrics, by the way. And they're the most comprehensive standards in the industry to assess the value of a charity.
Can you share some examples of organizations that really have excelled in managing clothing donations and making a positive impact on the communities they serve?
What I'd like to tell people is when you give clothing in particular, you should think about how you want to see that clothing item distributed. Sometimes you might want the item to go to a person who needs clothing right now, right? A battered women's shelter, where a woman might need clothing because she left her home without anything. So those are direct impact clothing, right? Sometimes in disaster relief situations, but people get misled into giving clothing during disasters because they can't get the clothes to the people with the disaster because there's too much going on at the disaster site. But that's a good thought and something you should consider. More often than not, you want to give money in those situations. But there are also other ways that clothing can be used, like in the case of a thrift shop, like Goodwill or Salvation Army. Salvation Army gives those clothes away, but Goodwill has thrift stores and they sell their clothes, but they create added benefit. The people who work in those thrift shops at Goodwill are unlikely to be hired anywhere else. So you're getting a twofer. The clothes are ending up somewhere good and not in the landfill. And the people are getting jobs at a Goodwill, where they wouldn't be hired before, which I think is terrific. There are other organizations that are basically distributing clothes overseas, and they're taking money back from selling those clothes to put into a charity here in the United States doing other kinds of work. So that's another way that your clothing item can benefit charity. Clothing bins, obviously, that's a big thing. Be careful, because some of those clothing bins are actually for profit, and they work with charities and distribute a little bit of money back to the charity, but they're actually for-profit organizations. So you got to check. Go to give.org. Do the work.
Now I'm looking at trying to push buying reloved clothes, thrifting, and trying to move the needle that way. But the reloved industry is over $1 billion industry.
Lots of charities are engaging in collaborations. I think I mentioned one to you that we studied together, which is Red Rover, an organization that collaborated with a battered women's shelter. As it turns out, 60% of battered women surveyed said they would not leave home because they're worried about a pet at home. Problem solved. We get the battered women's shelter together with the animal rescue organization. Now the pets have a place to go. Women can go take care of their challenges, right? So that's a great collaboration. There are millions of them out there like that. We got to get charities doing more of that, and I believe they will. As you mentioned, sustainability is a big one. Everything we do, we have to think with a mind toward being carbon neutral. When we take something away from the planet, we got to think about how we're putting something back to the planet. Clothing is a great way to think about being carbon neutral. That's a big shift, something that is obviously an existential concern for this planet.
I would like to see the next generation really focus on the reloved industry, thrifting, and utilizing upcycling and wearing and focusing on recycled materials, things like that, and less of quote unquote, what's the latest, but concern yourself with being the greatest person you can be in using sustainable practices, looking at the clothes that you buy, making sure that the products that you buy are done with humane work environment, with materials that have been recycled, upcycled, or just things that are already made, already here that you can restyle and put together, and know that everything that you're doing is saving the planet.
Yeah, and I think young people hopefully will lead to a shift in a problem that I'm seeing in our culture right now. And that is, people aren't giving to charity in the same way that they used to. Over the last 20 some odd years, we've seen a decline in the number of families giving to charity. 66% of families used to give. Now we're down to like 49.5%. And we all have these clothes in our closet that we could give away. That would change that overnight.
It's not just money you're talking about. You're talking about things that we have in our home. We're only wearing 20% of what's in our closet. The other 80%, many things have tags on them. There's so many organizations where people need those clothes right away. Battered women's shelters. Who needs clothes more than a woman escaping domestic violence with just her babies and her pets? Children who are aging out of the foster care system. Those are things that we need to think about when we're just holding on to all of these clothes. Right. So you guys, thank you for tuning in. I so appreciate you spending your time with this very special segment. Go to give.org and look at the organizations that are meeting standards. That's where you want to go first. Also, check out Art Taylor's Heart of Giving podcast. It's on all platforms. He's going to drop all the information in the link. Please subscribe to his channel. And I'm, of course, going to ask you guys to subscribe to At the Style Table LLC, My Style Mondays. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can see this also on At the Style Table LLC every Monday at 7 p.m. where we talk to so many fantastic people. So we'll see you next week on My Style Mondays every Monday at 7 p.m. Thank you for tuning in, and give wisely, you guys.